Hello and welcome back. Today we are continuing our Kilwa run, and this should be the episode. We've laid a lot of foundation. We've got a lot of, kind of expansion going, courtesy of the combination of missions and being able to instantly complete colonies, which we're going to continue to kind of abuse, where we accept the culture, and then we use the mission to convert the religion, and then we get to settle the thing instantly, and then we make subjects, and then we flip the subjects to our culture, and then they convert all of the stuff to our culture for us, and then we drop the culture as accepted, and then we just integrate the subjects, and everything's all nice. This is what we've been doing, but I think this episode we're really going to pop off economically. We've kind of been dragging our feet. We don't even have roads in literally every single location, and we are struggling with crown power, and there's difficulties, and there's not enough demand in our markets. We don't have that many opportunities for profitable buildings, but I think this episode is probably where things change quite a bit. And I think that's going to happen for two reasons. I think that we are going to get roads, and then I think we are going to get the workshop combo, and along with books output and lumber output. And I think we're going to pop off the back of this, because this is generally kind of a normal play pattern, is that economies tend to stall out before you get your first workshop upgrade, and then it tends to be really good. Now, that said, these workshop upgrades, they are a lot better when you have more dev. They are a lot better when you have more dev, because what it does, in terms of the maximum buildings you can have, is it basically doubles the scaling from dev. So the max building level, you will see that you have subscaling that's based on pop and subscaling that's based on development, and then just flat about. When you get the new building, or when you get the upgraded building, it doesn't upgrade the scaling you get off of base or pop. It just doubles the amount you will get from development. And so instead of this building cap being right now it's 5, it will get up to 7. So but it'll also be a better PM as well, and the margins will be better and all of this type of thing. But the pop is probably not going to be as strong for Kilwa as it would be if we had more dev, but we're also doing okay in the dev department from the perspective of the long term. I'm not sure if we'll end up playing that long term, but we do have pretty much maxed out prosperity in some of our locations, at least. In some where the satisfaction's not good enough, we aren't going to be hitting cap. If we had one more source of prosperity, we would just cap everywhere. But this is really nice for us, and we have our eyes on a couple of things, like this province here, which is 10 locations. We are deving it, and so this province should come up quite quickly. It should come up double as fast. You can see dev province plus prosperity, although unfortunately we do have tropical and forest and wetlands and jungle and all this type of thing, and to some degree, even though the proximity issues have been solved for Kilwa, in the sense of the vegetation gets overridden, the penalty gets overridden by roads, you're still not going to have as much dev because of these effects. And so we're trying to stack effects, but we're still in tropical, and we still have a bunch of vegetation. Now, to be fair, this is the promised land, right? Where we are going to not have as much kind of penalties. We're going to have some plateaus, but we're not going to have this grassland. It's going to be sparse. It's going to be flat, all this up here. And this is effectively right next to our capital because of the situation with the lakes. We could already see the lakes kind of coming to bear here, where we have 43 proximity here, which it feels like we should have no business having that much proximity, because it's 1, 2, we don't even own this location, 3, and then into the lake, out of the lake. And we are going to be able to do similar thing, stretching from here all the way up here, up into this region. Pretty well, especially with the roads. And so this will all be our power base, and so we are unlocking probably the better scaling area in terms of the development, but also just a ton of pops up here as well. Can we get a full view of things? Yeah. There is enormous population, and we are going to be trying to insta-flip this population, and this is millions of pops. And if we get this under our thumb, it should be a decent pop-off. I don't know if we get this far north, if we can manage to swing it, because the first colonies of these to finish are going to be really rough. But in particular, Rutar, Baganda, and I think Luhuya, we should be able to colonize all this relatively easily. And then this entire thing will probably be decent, and Rukwa, we will probably be able to get kind of this episode kind of up into here, but less so with these colonies over here, because that's going to take quite a bit of colonization to do. And so expecting to do pretty well this episode off the back of kind of these things, as well as the pushing of this up here, and would not be surprised if we could have something like 40 or 50 proximity up in here by the end of this episode, but we'll see what we can manage. Colonies are slow, and we're hoping to get some colonial tech, but it's hard to get the eco tech and the colonial tech at the same time. So we just unaccepted Senna. It was only it was using 8 cultural capacity, or around 9, or 0.9 rather, and we had virtually none of the pops because we just handed them off to our subjects, so it only took us about 1 stab to take this out. And so the cost of doing these instant colonizations is really, really, really low, because it's costing us 10 prestige and a little bit of stab to accept the culture and then unaccept the culture, and then we're also just having our subjects kind of convert everyone anyways, and we are flipping our subjects to Matumbi. That way we can annex them much faster. I do believe we started an annexation on this guy. No, we didn't. We flipped their culture. But anytime we are annexing someone, you get plus 100% speed if they are your culture and you're the primary big person of that culture. And so this is helping us out quite a bit. I think we're going to be annexing Boozy relatively shortly. We just want to give them a little bit more time to culture convert some of these areas, which I'm not sure if they're doing. If we take a look, we can see what they're using their cabinet actions on, and we can see that they are assimilating in this region. This is one thing that they'll do instead of Dev Province, right? They will use their cabinet actions to assimilate, to convert. For a while, we were converting people to Sunni, but I think that that's probably just actually a mistake. We don't really mind having a bunch of non-Sunni pops that are going to end up as part of the... Well, these guys actually won't end up as part of the dhimmi, so we kind of want to convert them. The dhimmi we will get will be either from Hindu or from Catholic, and these ones we probably don't want to convert, but the Bantu we probably do want to convert, and so we have been flipping religion on some of these guys. We might continue to do that, because we're not planning on annexing them anytime soon, which is why we have hyper disloyal people. It's not because we have any type of like loyalty issues just in general. It's because we keep on using these interactions, which just gives plus 100 liberty desire. And so notably though, I'm pretty sure that 100 is the cap. And so once they get loyal and they have a bunch of liberty desire, if we flip their culture or flip their religion again, it's not a big deal. So this is kind of a continued play pattern for us, though, that we are going to be getting effectively free colonizations, or colonizations for the price of 10 prestige to accept the culture, and then under 5 stab to drop the culture once we have colonized all of it and then handed it off to some of our subjects. We get enough prestige to full accept a Bet Simasaraka, which is a mouthful, and then we get a mouthful of, kind of new free colonies over here, because we can colonize this stuff instantly now. So we'll start a new colony as well, and get even more instant guys. I think that we're going to be releasing this mostly as subjects, though, and so we'll release them as subjects, and then we'll have none of them in our country, and then we can get rid of them instantaneously as well, for just the low price of 0 stability. Except for we actually do have some of these guys in the capital, because we did need to promote their culture in order to do this, and so the fact that like half our capital is those guys is a little bit awkward. So maybe we don't unaccept them immediately, but that is going to be the entirety of the region for that culture is just instantly finished in terms of the colonies. And this is pretty important, or pretty big deal, because this is saffron, baby. And also, we can import slaves from kind of the mainland here. Or we can import slaves into this market here. I don't think that we have a lot of demand for slaves, or I don't think we have a lot of supply for slaves, which means we can import them relatively easily. And so let's just take a look at what we can do. We're going to sort by least profitable. We're going to get rid of some of these trades, this type of thing, and see what a slave import looks like. Now we have a bunch of additional slave goods being produced here, because our target for slaves is the Kilwa market. We have a lot of locations that have slave markets that aren't actually producing slaves, but what they're doing is they're producing slave goods, which is economics, and then It's economics, baby. And then they are also when we capture slaves, they will go to these locations, and so that is somewhat useful. We should have actually continued this war a little bit longer. We declared on these guys, we occupied this, so we got out of the war really quickly, just for the humiliate, for the prestige, but we should have gone a little while longer. But what we could do is we could import from Kilwa here, because we will have demand for slaves in, specifically, all this saffron area, and this is going to be really nice because we are going to have way more saffron, and if we take a look at what's profitable in terms of our trades, we're getting like 4 to 5 ducats a trade for this saffron, and most of the back end of the saffron is achieved by that one culture, and so this is going to be really good for us. Also, we're locking up the coast, so no pesky Europeans decide to settle in Madagascar, which is of course always something we enjoy. By enjoy, I mean we hate the pesky Europeans. Another thing that's pretty key about us just having a bunch of subjects is pop promotion. It scales with the amount of control you have, and so when we are having, these subjects that have really high control, just generally speaking, although some low control in some of these areas, they get a lot more pop promotion speed, and so when we take a look at what's going on in terms of the promotions, okay, we see 24 monthly promotions, and the modifier lack of control minus 23%. So, them having, like, all of these, well, actually this guy just has so many modifiers, but one of the things that is happening is the tribesmen are getting promoted up into higher class pops, and the tribesmen getting promoted is a pretty big deal because this affects proximity, and if we were to just take all this stuff ourselves, it like might look good on like a short-term basis, but we wouldn't be promoting out all the tribesmen, so in the long term it would be difficult for us to fully like kind of realize the level of proximity we could get, whereas if we take a look at like some of our subjects, man, they've really kind of brought the number of tribesmen down quite a bit. I think this was one of our subjects. They started out on the map, but a lot of our subjects have decreased the amount of tribesmen by quite a lot, and so this is going to be something that we care about, and is going to be one of the metrics where we look to annex guys on the basis of, have they gotten rid of most of the tribesmen? If yes, then annexation on them is going to be a little bit better. So you see there's a bunch of tribesmen still kicking around over here, there's some still kicking around over here, but maybe instead of, we said that Boozy was next, maybe Upper Save is actually going to be next for us for a few reasons. They also have a pretty good level of conversion towards our culture, although they are doing quite a bit more, it looks like. Here's plus 200%, and so maybe we leave them for the time being, but they might be a little bit better because they have already gotten rid of more of their tribesmen than Boozy has. I cannot describe how amusing it is that some of these events we just like haven't cared about for the majority of the time we've been playing this game, just really excite us now. Just basically any event that's giving us prestige is just an instant slam dunk because it allows us to do the things that we are trying to do here. So for these guys, we can now accept this culture, which is going to cost a bit of culture capacity, but the idea here is now we can insta-colonize this stuff, and these colonies are really expensive to keep going. I'm not sure we will keep them going, but what's going to happen is we're going to insta-finish these 2 spots, because we've already converted them. Oh, have we not converted? There's so many of them to convert to Sunni. Made a mistake there. I think that's just going to cost us 250 gold. We're not going to, like, reload over it, but we just want to abandon the charter because we're not actually going to finish these, because there's so many pops here. In our head, these were already all converted to Sunni, but they're really not. But the important part is now that we accept these this culture, we can completely let go of having them in our country, so we are just going to make a custom subject. Actually, we can make a historical subject, I think. This guy who will have claims. So that'll be nice enough. We're going to make them as a vassal, and now we have given away a huge chunk of pops, like 250,000 pops, and with this, we will eventually be able to colonize all this, because we accept their culture, but we still have to wait for the missions to take effect. We just kind of punted 250 gold, because they have to have over 50% Sunni, for us to be able to flip them instantaneously, and so that is going to be, that's going to be something we need to wait for. Who knew it takes a really long time to convert 100,000 pops, but this is going to be something that we will be achieving eventually on the horizon, and getting rid of those guys is pretty valuable. I think we were sitting at like 13% crown power, and now we're at 15%, and so functionally this was just a drag on our economy, and now we are doing just a little bit better. Alright, so we pip being a GP, and with it, we get a cultural hegemon. This is currently our only hegemon. The naval hegemon is maybe an interesting one, and maritime support is also maybe an interesting one. This goes towards an entire area, and really, really increases quite by a lot the entire, harbor capacity. I don't think that we have an area that is good enough for this, but East Madagascar would be maybe one where we could get a lot of, this. Also Southern Somalia, just places with really high surface area. We could get a lot of control to Southern Somalia easier with this, and naval hedge would be, oh wow, no, just kidding. Wow, the AI is building so many heavies. Holy. We were about to make a joke about just needing 2 heavy ships. Just kidding. We're not going to be going in that direction at all. It looks like the AI is actually doing pretty well, and we're not that close to getting, any of these other hedges. I suppose that this hegemon is going to be kind of within our grasp. It's looking like it's probably just cultural. Diplo is somewhat close, and we do want kind of Diplo core. We currently are using a cabinet action for, we're not using the cabinet action for this. We would have to get rid of the dev province, and this action, strength of government, is going to become a lot more useful now, or a lot more powerful now, because you can see that we are getting 0.2 from this, and otherwise we would be paying basically double on this. Actually, this is only like 3 ducats. This is courtesy of like the change where so much of our income is coming from subjects, and also from and is also coming from trade, that this actually is very cheap in terms of our sliders, and we probably are just punting by investing in this here. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to come and do diplomatic endeavors with this guy, and then with this guy, the idea being, doing diplomatic endeavors, we are going to get extra 3.75 diplo rep. This is going to bring our diplo rep up to 14.31, which is the highest, and is going to be enough for us to get diplo core, which is something we're interested in. And then on top of that, with this guy, we are going to go to deving the province. I think that we do want to be deving this province, and at least kind of see, even if it's not the best thing, I think experimentally it's a little bit more interesting than necessarily going Diplo core immediately. We do have that extra cabinet seat coming up, so that is going to be quite nice. But here I think we're going to go assimilate area and look to clear out the riffraff. We have just kind of some leftovers in here that we would like to kind of override. Overall, culturally, we're not going to really need this cabinet action too much with the way we're playing, where we're having our subjects culture convert everything, but maybe we could just pump the brakes and pull off that a little bit and not need to culture convert them as much. And if we do that, then we increase the chances that they're going to be dev provincing, because obviously they have a finite amount of cabinet actions. If they're using the culture conversion one, they can't be using the dev province one. So that is going to be a little bit of a maybe good for us for now, at least until we get onto, I think if we just peel another month, we will become Diplo hedge. And I mean, I think that we probably should be using the core. And so there we go. There's our diplomatic hegemon. Just kind of a very classic combo of improving diplomatic reputation, usually getting you enough to get diplo hedge in a lot of situations, especially if you have other sources of diplo rep. And so a little bit of a new thing for us to be a GP. We also get a couple things off of this, namely the prestige is kind of the one we might care about most. Monthly diplomats is also kind of nice. We don't have too much increased expected cost to court, but this monthly prestige is kind of a vibe. So is the power projection, because that's going to help us to colonize a little bit faster. But I wonder if we could now pay for the slider again and actually generate a decent... this is so much gold to basically generate almost no prestige, so I think we're just gonna stay off of it, but a little bit surprised at how cheap this slider is, kind of with the new ecosystem, and we could also kill, to some extent, our diplomatic slider, if we go with the hegemon thing, because I don't think we would get a similar amount of monthly diplomats with the cabinet action, and so maybe that's what we do when we get our additional cabinet action, which is coming on up here with early administrative capacity. So we decided to hold off on paved roads to just see what our next parliament would be, because our next parliament's coming up. If we get the paved road parliament, then, or the road discount parliament, then we would want to wait for a big spend on this. And then we're seeing, man, our burghers are so rich. Our burghers are making so much money, and they are spending it on roads. If roads are something that could be built, you can see they just have 1k saved up, and they are getting 76 ducats, and they're spending it relatively efficiently. And this is one of the nice things about going Republic, going burger heavy, this type of thing, is that their equilibrium, their satisfaction equilibrium, 130. They're just going to trend up towards maximum, and when they're maximum, they don't buy or they don't build the bad buildings very often. I think actually if they're at 100%, they never build the estate buildings. I'm not 100% sure how the scaling works, but the idea is when their satisfaction is high, they build better buildings. And so even though we don't have direct control of a lot of our income, because a lot of it is going to the burghers, because they're getting, income from trade and they're getting income from taxes, this type of stuff, despite all this, they are making gobs and gobs of money. Also, the fact that they're making gobs of money is going to improve their buy packages, and so there's maybe a world where with the new introduction of the fact that these guys will consume better buy packages when they make more money, there's maybe a world where taxing pops less will generate you more net income, especially if the estates are building stuff that you're interested in them building, which something that we're interested in these guys building is paved roads all over the place, which is exactly what they're doing. And so this is going to be kind of something that we need to take a closer look at some point, especially understanding the buy packages and how they work in this sort of thing. But if they're making a ton of money, and then this improves their buy package, which drives up the price of everything, then suddenly max tax becomes not a very good modifier, right? Because you don't even want to tax them maximum. Also, they build better stuff when their satisfaction is high. And so there's like a lot of moving parts here, especially as they start to change the game more and more, where max tax, like this paradigm, might end up shifting. But in any case, right now, really loving just seeing all these roads coming on up. We also are cruising for a bruising. Is this... Okay, we don't have any prestige, so we just always choose this option. But we are also going to be going for 2 religious wars up here in the north, so that's why we're moving our army up and also building a little bit of some cannons for them. We ended up researching Hoofnice, which will be nice, and then we finish a colony up here, which we're just going to feed to our subject, because this has always been the plan. We want to feed them full provinces. This is a full province for them. That is a completion for us, though, so that's pretty nice. Actually, we should have... Yeah, Mubugu, we're not going to end up kind of accepting so that we can colonize instantly, and so now we have a little bit more budget on the colonization. I'm thinking that we want to wait maybe for this to finish colonizing. This finished colonizing, so that's going to be a nice little piece of infrastructure. We'll probably actually urbanize this right now, with the idea that this is our route to the lake, and we eventually want this to have a pound lock canal, and so we'll urbanize it right away so that we can build a slave center, so that when we fight people and we take slaves, the slaves have the potential to come here, and so this will allow us to kind of build a line of pound lock canals, which we forgot to... Oh, we didn't forget to? But it is going to be useful to build the pound lock canals in the locations where we are going to be having cities, but in particular, pound lock canal does require 20 dev, so a little bit awkward, and also why our parliament, we're going to be hosting in this line for our parliament for like forever now, trying to get each of these to 20 dev so we can pound lock canal all the way to the lake, and that way, that will make places like this have more proximity. I think they had like 43 at the start of the episode, up to 45 now. So here's another thing, right, where tax exemption, if them getting more money is okay, like if they're going to spend it all on roads, we actually don't mind going tax exemption very much at all, in order to get a whopping 87 support. Kind of very similar idea here. I think that we're not even supposed to click it immediately, because we're just supposed to wait for the parliament to juice up their approval so that we get even more from this, but getting like plus 100% support off of this is something that is like in the cards, and this is normally one you wouldn't want to click. But if they're going to spend all their money on roads, and we would have spent all of our money on roads, it's really quite a bit of a wash. The only thing that is driving us to prefer to tax them relative to this is that this tax efficiency is positive. So when we take 10 ducats from them, we get 11 ducats, and so this makes you like want to tax them. But if you don't have a lot of tax efficiency, which we don't because we went lenient taxation and we have low crown power, then this kind of more hands-off-ish type of economy maybe makes a little bit more sense. We have been delivered from pain. We get a court character who is a crown character. We only have 15 estate power. We just put this guy in. He's the son of our ruler. We are, of course, a republic, so we elect new people, and that's the way it is. But not only can we put him in charge, we can also promote him to the head of cabinet, which is going to be really nice. This guy's going to have more kids coming of it. Oh, just kidding. That's his one and only son. But really nice to be getting that. We noticed him when we got our new, our new cabinet action slot, where we wanted to put in support Diplo Corps. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this guy on Diplo Rep, and he is going to give us a ton of Diplo Rep. The idea is we're trying to lock in as best we can the fact that we are going to have a loud car outside, but also more importantly that we're going to have way more Diplo Rep than the next person. So the next person has to get up to 16.5. I think that we're in pretty safe hands, and so this means we will be getting a ton of diplomats so we can kill this slider, at least to some extent. I don't think we'll kill it all the way. Let's do something like this, but that's going to be nice, and we will be able to have more diplomats for various things, which we, of course, will spend on, which makes jockeying and using all of these guys quite a bit easier. We're still not really loyalty pressured off of them yet. They're only getting minus 12, and so we're in okay shape, but we do have to be careful, especially with these really high pop guys that we're going to be creating up here. They might cause, they're going to be able to build a lot of manpower buildings, so they're going to be able to build a lot of army. You can see they're dropping an armory right now. Alright, so we have kind of some text to research. We're just going to beeline the printing shop. Kind of pretty straightforward here. After this, we'll come for the faster colonists, which I think will be useful considering the proportion of our budget we're spending on colonies. And then we will come back for the books output and the lumber output. And then after that, we will go for Republican power. We kind of think that two options. So the changes to budget, where cost of court's really not that expensive, makes it so, I mean, this is kind of like everything feels a little upside down, topsy-turvy in terms of trying to evaluate the eco stuff, but I think previously would have just slam dunked devolution of powers, extra captaincy, very nice. But the option for this actually seems pretty attractive right now, considering our current crown power situation, which admittedly is a lot better with that guy that we put in head of cabinet, and also he is in our cabinet as a crown power character. But without that, crown power is definitely a major throttle, and 20% would go a long way for increasing our trade income. Our trade income is close to half of our income, and this is when we're getting diplomat income as well. So the amount that we're getting from tax, if we take a look here, 240, right? Minus 20, so 220, minus 100, so 120, minus 50. You know, it's really not a lot that we're getting from tax. And this is what's increasing the economic base size. And so this means that with some economies, you're not going to care as much about the Republican, tradition or legitimacy or this type of thing in terms of the flat amount. And so I think that considering how few crown power modifiers we have, plus 20% here would actually be really, really good at this juncture. Later on, when we get a bunch more crown power modifiers, it falls off and it's not as big a deal, but I think that we might end up going for that, which is kind of a little bit of an interesting thing. We've also started to dev province over here instead of, I think we dropped assimilate area, where the assimilation isn't going to give us cores. We're going to assimilate these guys eventually. It would be nice from a satisfaction perspective, because pop satisfied, or a lot of these guys are relatively unsatisfied, which decreases our prosperity max, and so we're not capping prosperity here, is the main reason why we would want to assimilate here. But honestly, now that we kind of thought about it a little bit more, the fact that we need 20 dev in order to do pound lock canals, and we want 2 pound lock canals here, I think means that prioritizing this and deving up here makes a lot of sense, and with that we will gain basically double the development otherwise, and so we will be able to slowly push our way there. But you can see the forest, the tropics, and the plateau all negatively affecting us, all like kind of intractable issues of playing Kilwa, is that, you know, vegetation, climate, topography, it is what it is. Just because it's so much better doesn't mean we don't have struggles, and just because the lakes are insane doesn't mean that there aren't other issues. It's not like we're playing in France where it's all flatland and farmland. So as a proportion of our total income, the amount that we are spending on missions has gone down considerably, and this D slot is pretty expensive, but I'm pretty sure that what we want, although it is kind of attractive, considering how much we're spending on roads, transportation code actually is attractive, but I think that we want the local development growth plus 10% here on the coast. Most of our provinces are coastal, and we've wanted this for some time. Also, Navy is one of our most expensive things, and so Navy maintenance is going to be really nice. Proximity cost through port is also going to be nice, especially because we don't have really good ports, and so capping out that is going to be difficult. I think that if we take a look here, and we look at what kind of some of the segments are here, let's just put this in because we know that we're going to want to do it, but if we look at what some of the segments are, I don't even think we don't even have a full price collapse yet on our exit from Kilwa in terms of the cost of the segment, because we don't have enough harbor capacity in Kilwa, and so this plus 5% is going to go, I think, a pretty long way. But then on top of that, the proportion of our provinces that are coastal is really big, and the dev is also going to make a big deal. This harbor administration is going to go up to 10%, and is going to be more valuable. The more negative modifiers you have, the more valuable positive modifiers to dev are, and so we've been wanting to slot this in for a while now. I don't think it bricks our trade with Alexandria. I suppose that we actually should have been a little bit more careful. Yeah, it doesn't brick our trade with Alexandria, or because we can rage Damascus, we know that Alexandria trade isn't going to get bricked, and so I think that it's a good enough opportunity for us that we can say go ahead and go for that. Also, we will have the opportunity to get a discount on foreign buildings anyways, and so now the overseas stuff should be a little bit more expensive than 5. It's basically doubled in price, but also we were noticing, I don't think that this was the case before, but now we have to pay maintenance on the overseas trade buildings. And we are maybe break even on these, and so this is not the same really good opportunity that it used to be. If you are getting like these on the super cheap for kind of spinning up your economy, because it kind of feels a little bit more like you're spinning your wheels. I think we net lose slightly in terms of income, but we give the burgers overall more income than we lose by a really large margin with this, and also if we have more crown power, these get better, but so far they don't feel that strong. And also we have the colonial law coming on up that would give us an opportunity to get another 20% discount, so swapping over now to harbor administration for the dev. And also, just to highlight, our Navy maintenance is 20 ducats, which is no small thing in terms of all of our expenditures. It's it's 1/8 of our total expenditures, so getting a 5% discount on that is pretty nice as well. Alright, so we made sure off of Alodia to take territory bordering Daju. And this is actually an enormous province here that is 10 locations. and would be really nice if someone were to just dev province this indefinitely, because it's got gold and iron in it, and I believe that's just one gold pile, but okay, it's got gold and iron, it's pretty good. And the reason that we made sure to take territory off of Alodia bordering Daju is because now we can, because we are a GP, use the threat and war interaction, which is going to give us a much better CB than our religious war CB. So we're just going to select a location. It doesn't really matter which, and a big portion of why we want this war also is just to be able to take a whole bunch of slaves. As we take more slaves, though, we will get more pops, kind of where we want them, but the downside of taking more slaves is, of course, it's going to be harder and harder to get these free colonizations. You can see this massive uptick, that massive upswell, that's us taking slaves in the war with Alodia. And so this is one of the ways in which we are really bolstering our population, and we are trying to build slave centers specifically in some key locations. I think that we might actually delete the slave center that's here, or there's not a slave center here. I don't know how this location got so many slaves, but okay. We deleted the slave center here. We have a slave center in this market capital of Sofala. We have a slave center here in the market capital. The idea is we might need some slaves in this market to, you know, employ up the saffron, stuff like this. We are trading this. Our trades are really valuable. Even though we are not the one producing the saffron, it doesn't really matter. Us getting slaves here is still very lucrative to us because each of our trades here is 4 to 5 ducats. And this is just pure gravy. So really value getting slaves there for the purpose of that, and then we won't have to trade them as much. And then, of course, we want slaves in our just general power base here so we can upgrade stuff to cities. You can see the cities coming on up. But the idea here is that now that we do this war, now the war goal is instead of, or sorry, the attacker, the CB is following through on threat instead of religious war, so we have less cost on conquer and subjugate. Again, we can't religion flip them, but we weren't planning on doing that anyways. We were planning on just kind of probably just taking just this province and then war reps and something else, rather than kind of going for the whole shebang, because it's not going to really be that valuable. To be fair, we could just take this province and then subjugate the rest, which would maybe be okay, but I think that we want to knock on their door a couple times for some slaves and say, you know, please sir, may I have some more slaves? That is, I think that we win that battle because that's just conscripts, but we are a little bit low. We are entirely regulars here, and so this will maybe be an interesting battle. We do get reinforced on, and it looks like we're doing more damage. It looks like we're taking more damage. Yikes. They're taking more morale damage, but this is not, this is maybe not good for us. We can conscript up and we have subjects to kind of help us out. Taking a look here, this is finishing. We will feed that off to a subject, not too big a deal. And we do lose this war, or we lose this battle. Not too big a deal. They will retreat, and I guess we will conscript up and get ready for a little bit more of an involved war. I think that where we're going to take conscripts from is going to be just generally locations where we have a little bit less control, and we do have a decent amount of pops, and so something like this. And we don't need a ton of conscripts, though, is another note. So this war will be a little bit awkward, and then it's a war with this guy, who we are... wait, what happened to... Do we have our spy network? Alright, yeah, we already have the religious war worked out. Unfortunately, we will just have to declare the regular religious war because we don't have any territory bordering them. But it's not the biggest deal because we aren't going to want to take that much war score worth of stuff anyways. We're just going to... actually, we might conquer them entirely. Or conquer this guy, so that we can accept this culture, so that we can get the instant colonization on Luhuya, which is not quite adjacent to us, so I guess it'll be a little while, but we will need some time anyways. Or we could go for Baganda and then leave this guy alone and try and do the same thing. The colonies, or the thing we are watching here, is if they're over 50% Sunni, then we can start colonizing to immediately insta-finish, and then when we do that, we'll just feed it to our subject here. So we get a really nice timing on Dev the Interior. We had just added a whole bunch of these paper mills and scriptoriums, or rather upgraded scriptoriums, the printing presses, and we're just canceling all of them because now we're going to get a 20% discount on them, which is going to feel fantastic. And so we are are not layering them all entirely with each other, but we have the minus 33% on masonry, and then we have a bunch of things giving us minus percent cost. So the building that would have cost 200 is now only costing us 64 ducats, and so that is going to be pretty nice. We will expand out in a few places, and we kind of already figured out where we want these. We're splitting them up a little bit, where we're building some in some locations and some in others, or we're building the paper in some and the book places in others. But by doing this, we're going to get really a big discount here on what we are paying for, and also the economy is going to pop off really hard. We'll micro it around, but the idea is most of the places close to the capital, high market access, we are building a whole bunch of these, and then kind of some fringe outskirt places where we already have a decent number of these things and we have inputs for them, so the wood feeds into the paper. We're kind of okay adding a little bit of level 2 paper there as well, but mainly focusing kind of in on this area. And one of the ideas here is that once all this goes through, we're going to be able to sell a lot of books. We're already selling books to Alexandria at a decent price without even having this upgraded PM. This is going to be a pretty big deal. And also, take a look. Max level 10 here, max level 18 here. So much more economies of scale, which will give us a lot more production efficiency here. And so this is going to feel pretty good. Also, when we eventually get book output plus 25%, that's going to be even more production efficiency. So we are currently not spreading New World at all because the Mamluks are lacking, they're slacking, and so we need to go backpacking for some promoting institutions. We're going to use the cabinet action, and all we're looking to do is just to seed it in Kilwa, and so with this kind of coming in, we will be getting a new kind of 1% a month. Not really that big, but okay, 1%, it's not spreading naturally, it's just spreading via the promoting institutions, and so I feel like we should be getting more, because this says 1.73, so not entirely sure what that's about, but we're going to promote here just until New World is here, at which point we will just let the natural spread kind of take over, but that means that our next institution, or in terms of tech, the way we're thinking is, we're not going to get New World that soon. We maybe should have emphasized a little bit going for this faster, the share of knowledge a little bit faster, but with that in mind, and we should probably grab some other stuff from this tree, because this is going to be the soup that we're swimming in, so that I'm thinking that we go for the trade capacity and also the building cost here. And that will be pretty good for us. And then once the buildings are really cheap, this will also apply to our overseas buildings, so it'll effectively kind of take over some of the discount that we had been getting from the government reform where we slot out. After this, it's going to be really tempting to go for these, but we'll see exactly how things are kicking around. But the printing press institution is by far the most important, because once you have that, then you have promoting institutions, and then you're just like, you're free to go. If you run into any sort of difficulties, this can be really good, and we're running into a difficulty here because we're not spreading New World, and so we're going to handle it. Probably should have been a little bit more on top of it and gone for this tech a little sooner, though. We haven't really needed breadbasket provinces until now, but now we're working on one in Kutu. It does have a river. We are going to build farming villages, and so we are going to stack up a lot of food productivity. Currently don't have too much. A little bit of a malice from capital economy. That is what it is. But with the irrigation coming in, we're going to get a lot of percentage bonus. Farming villages, percentage bonus, and then we have the RGO with the bestest, the most flat food possible. So this should solve the problem relatively quickly. We do have food issues in this market, but there's not a whole lot we can do about it until we annex this guy. This is one of the bigger guys that we're kind of setting about annexing. He has been using Dev Province here and there, but he also has like 4 total provinces, so this will be a pretty nice annex. We could have annexed this guy as well, but kind of enjoying the fact that he's using Dev Province pretty consistently. We will want to eventually, and when that happens, the Mogadishu market will become a lot more important to us. Currently, it's not that big a deal. Its value is 731, but we are also getting more proximity and able to spread more of it over there, and so this is going to be nice. We are also building up the proximity proximity here with our kind of rover fleet. I think that what we're going to do is we're going to get a dedicated fleet to move in here on Kilwa, or move in here on this kind of region. I think that we were thinking of releasing this as a subject, though. If we release this as a subject, it's going to be less valuable for us to be trying to push up the control there or the maritime presence. So actually, let's pull back here. I think that we are going to release it as a subject. We're just waiting to get the last little bits of free kind of colonizations here on Songa, and it looks like, hey, we have it right now. So let's create the colonial charter. That should finish these, and then we could release all of this as one subject, or we could release this as a subject, hand it off this, and then maybe release this other one as a subject, a different subject, something like this. Kind of loath to give away some of these cities or towns, though. The thing is when we unaccept Songa, these guys will get really just a huge satisfaction hit, so it's better that we don't have them in our nation entirely, and so maybe this is what we end up doing and giving up the guy on the coast. Actually, you know what I think I like? I think I like the idea of creating just a two subjects instead of just one. That's kind of what we were thinking about here, where we could create one subject here, make it a vassal, sort by most kind of... Ooh, she's quite gifted. So we were going to put her in charge, and then over here, I think that we will put another one here, make it a vassal, and then what we'll do is we'll probably look to, in the near-ish future, annex the one that is closer to us and leave the other one behind a little bit, and we will feed these provinces over to them, and then we can unaccept Songa with kind of no real recourse or no too negative an effect here, because there's almost no Songa people now in our country. There's less than 1%. It's just going to cost us 7 stab. It's going to make some people upset, but virtually none, and then that will refund a whole bunch of accepted culture capacity for us to work with. We need a little bit more prestige, and then we can accept up this guy and then release this guy as well, and then unaccept, or actually not unaccept. We are floating the Rutara culture that we are accepting, and we are also going to float the Baganda culture until we colonize all of this for freezies. But now this is the first time in a while we've had a bunch of extra cap of 1.5, and so being able to release these guys is really nice, and then we are going to kind of just do our standard thing where we are going to immediately force them to become our culture instead. And so this is going to, it's just kind of a very funny play pattern, but all the Songa people will soon be no more as they all culture convert to ours. So we have good relations with some of these miners that we abandoned, and while we can't deck on them without having a very significant penalty to, stability, we can just threaten war them, and this kind of sidesteps the entire thing. So we'll just threaten war, they'll say no because they're an OPM and they don't want to give up the bag, and then we will just have ourselves a very, very easy war here, where, well, that's kind of quite a bit of, no, these can't be regulars. There's no way this guy has 1k of regulars, so this just has to be... Yeah. Did he just instantly levy up? Played in Knights. Yeah, I mean, he instantly levied up. That's a cool change. 1.0.10. Instant levies. That way they're not hyper vulnerable. Like, if we had gotten here before the levies got raised, then obviously there's nothing he could do. So, nice little change there where he at least had a fighting chance. And by fighting chance, I mean he had no chance. This lake is also providing for us a very important role in getting our iron supply. You can build these bog iron smelters next to any lake. So this is going to be a ton for us. Rev, that engine outside. We are going to be able to build a ton of these smelters. This has been throttling our ability to get tools, which has been throttling our ability to build lumber, and so just turtles all the way down. To be fair, probably could have been a little bit more proactive about importing, specifically iron, and this would have been a little bit better, but you can see we are running a deficit, and so imports, if we kind of... I'm actually a little surprised why imports are not just naturally occurring. So let's actually get rid of some of our lower kind of ones of these and see what's going on here in regards to the imports. Could we move a lot of stuff? We could move a little bit from Axum. It's reasonably profitable. I wonder why it's not saying they have basically no marginal balance. So here would be one where we could move it from Zaranj. And so, would that be profitable? It'd be profitable enough. They do have a positive balance of the good. So why don't we, at least for now, import? But we are going to be able to some degree resolve this ourselves as well with these bog iron smelters. And so this is going to be very nice. And for potentials, everywhere that's adjacent to a lake gets it, or everywhere that's on a lake gets it. And so this is just basically, this entire area is just this massive iron field, whereas before we've been reliant entirely on this as our only source of iron, which has been rough. You can see the price is high, and so now we will be having an additional source of iron. We kind of noticed we're at this interesting inflection point where our diplo slider actually only costs significantly less than it appears to cost, because as we slide it up, we get more loyalty from all the people who we're pissing off, and then they contribute more. And so roughly speaking, it's only costing us half to increase the slider. But this is also indicative of a cost that is being incurred by us culture flipping people. They are paying us less when they're disloyal, right? And because they are paying us less than when they're disloyal, we're not making as much money. And if we weren't doing any of that, this slider would have no bearing on income. But as you can see, if we slide up, this 72 responds in real time, goes to 88, so 16. So okay, it's not quite a half. It's roughly a third of this is getting covered by increases in diplomacy, because it is increasing loyalty, which is increasing payments. And so as long as we keep culture flipping people, this is going to be a play pattern that makes us money, or until these guys start to get powerful enough in relation to us. We noticed this is creeping up. I think at the start of the episode, this was sub 10, and now it's at 14.58, although to be fair, these are two hecka big subjects, and so they are going to be quite big. And we are also currently annexing the two biggest in terms of raw income subjects that we have, both Upper Save and Ajuran, and so it's going to come back down as these guys come in. Also, we can de-urbanize their stuff in order to increase their loyalty or decrease their income, which will increase our relative power compared to them, so it'll help us with that. But we haven't need to really jockey or make any sorts of moves in regards to subject loyalty so far. We just have so many modifiers that are positive. We went Confederal Union, we have diplo spending, we have decentralization. There's just so much positive that even like, yeah, we're in pretty good shape here. So we accept Bemba, which is going to be a big chunk of these locations. It's not a whole lot of pops that we're going to be getting in for free, and we're not going to cancel the current colonies we have. We're colonizing kind of in force here. 3 separate colonies in this region, and the idea is we want to push the lakes, and also we want to push kind of deep and make a market, because this is not a lot of market access. You may notice that it's not a lot of market access because this number says 0. So unfortunately, also, we kind of want the wood for the Kilwa market, and there's a whole lot of lumber here, and this is going to be a weird-ass market where it's just super, super lumber dense. We're going to try and make a market here, I think, that is going to be pretty good. It's kind of in the middle of a clearing, to be fair. It's all forest, but it's kind of in the middle of a clearing here. It's next to where we will have quite a bit of proximity in all of these zones. It's kind of deep in, so it's maybe a couple of these lumbers end up still in the Kilwa market, but probably not. We'll have decent access to some of these goods, and importantly, it's on a river and it's bordering a whole bunch of locations, and so I think overall it's going to be pretty high market access for various places, but it's going to feel pretty bad as a market overall because it's just like mono lumber market. And we could do something else. Unfortunately, the market access is not projected very well across lakes, and so while we get a lot of proximity over here, we don't get a lot of market access over here, and so that's what's going to make something like this, I think, kind of important. Also, previously, the market access has gotten super bricked for a country like this because previously the roads would stack with the rivers. And this would mean that you would get a whole lot of market access with the road and river combo, but now the rough terrain, the topography, the vegetation, this is a significant downward pressure on the market access, and then we don't have the road river combo to kind of offset this. Also, just to kind of look at some of the roads that we have or current situation in regards to roads, we have only built a few of these roads ourselves. A lot of this has been organically the burghers kind of choosing making pretty good economic choices in terms of where we should be building the roads. We are still building gravel roads occasionally in our subjects, and we're probably going to continue to do that. Just kind of, I think it's a decent practice, especially in instances where we're connecting like these two golds, for example. So that will override, or that will give us more development, and it will also override the penalty on the wood. And overall, I think that this is fairly strong. We're also kind of getting into an open clearing here in a couple of spots down here and down over here in terms of where we can get market access. And we're also thinking about making another market either here, or possibly even both. It's kind of a little bit of a weird thing. But we want to be kind of close to this clearing. We don't necessarily have to do it on the coast. I think that we would prefer to do it on a river. And so that's kind of pushing us in the direction of doing it here, where we are going to have a pretty high control. It's just a little bit far off of this, but maybe we just have to do another inland market kind of somewhere in here once we eventually get this going, or even over here. Maybe this is a spot for a market. The markets are really hard to place, just generally speaking, kind of down here. But this one enormous market obviously isn't going to cut it, so we're going to have to make decisions. Also, these like zero access, we're going to have to decide where we want to put the markets. We also want to put another market over here, so kind of got a lot of stuff going on in terms of long-term plans, and not really sure what's best because we haven't played this region before, or we haven't really tried to very closely decide where the best places are. We just make colonies, and then we make colonies on the natural harbors, and then they make markets there, and usually they're good enough. Like, down here is maybe reasonable for a market, but okay. We're also going to continue to explore a little bit as we need to, or as we need kind of more information, which I don't think we need. This would be the most information that we need, but exploration's pretty expensive. It's like 10% of our net income, so trying not to. Alright, so we've embraced pike and shot, still pretty far from getting the New World, although we do have it in our nation and it is spreading around. It's going to be a while before we get to it. We're going to go for Lancers first, and that should be enough for us to win just kind of like any of the regional type of wars that we're fighting. And then we're going to grab these three, which are just kind of what we need in order to go on to the next thing. And then just like basically 6 useless tech, but then we're getting into possible government reform. We have a tax efficiency plus 10% kind of waiting for us, as well as some other options. We might go for outward, something that gives us outward and loyalty of subjects. That could be pretty good for us. There are a lot of good options in there. And then we are going for the merchant quarters, and then call an ambulance, but not for us, but rather for the gold, because maximum RGO size in rural is going to be decent for us, especially as we are starting to unlock some of these gold provinces, or we are starting to integrate some of them. That'll start to be really, really good. And the merchant quarters, because we're so kind of trade oriented, that this will be pretty solid. And I think by the time we've researched all this, we should be getting into the New World a little bit later than we would have liked. I wish we kind of handled this a little bit differently and probably went for this very, very first, and that would have kind of locked down the institutions. Last age was so comfortable with the institutions that I thought we were going to do really well this age, but the Mamluks have not pulled the institutions anywhere near as quick in this age as they did in Age of Renaissance, so a little bit rougher for us. Alright, this is huge for us. This has been our longest colonization, colonizing a 28k location. Also, notably, you could see we only took 13k to be able to do it. This is because of our power projection getting higher, but we have been waiting quite a while on this one, and now, with that in place, we are promoting the culture that is Rukwa, because we've gotten one location of Rukwa, and these guys are some pretty high pop. And so, chances are that after we get this, we've been trying to stay under 2 million, but chances are once we get this, it might be a little bit hard for us to stay under 2 million, or we'll have to release Rukwa as subjects. That's what we're going to do with Bemba, but was planning on kind of keeping some of the stuff that is adjacent to the river, because the proximity, or sorry, the lake rather, the proximity here is fantastic. 59 proximity across the way here, and it's only when we start moving inland a little that it gets worse, and okay, we were planning on making a market and then keeping the market capital and then releasing a bunch of other stuff, and maybe we do this, but this is by far the longest colonization that we've done in terms of the waiting that we have had to do it. I think maybe not in years, but in terms of the amount of resources and pops that we have kind of settled into this area, because now we're also colonizing at a faster clip. We are colonizing at 77 apiece, courtesy of both Outward and the tech that we had researched, and so things are looking like they will be starting to accelerate, especially, you know, as we get all of this for free, and then we will work on this Nyam Wazy, which I think is reasonably high pop in some spots, but if we can get all of this for free as well, then, you know, it's just a straight shot towards some of these really, really big heavy hitters where there's enormous populations on the line. Look at this, 300,000 pops just in one location. Insane. So I think we're going to conclude the episode here. We both gained control of the lake and just had like a massive economic come up. I think we're a little under 300 tax base to start the episode and somewhere around here. And this come up was a result of the workshops. And then this was a result of annexing our subject here. Now, this is, of course, why we got this pretty big kick up. And so it's going to be harder and harder for us to maintain our low pop. But we needed to kind of get things started on the annexations. And this was also just worth a lot. If we take a look at the tax base, enormous tax base here, and this province is one of the best provinces for producing jewelry because we have both gold and ivory. So we have both the good and the premium choice here for production efficiency on both, which is not very common to have either gold or silver plus one of these in the same province. And so that is going to be quite nice. We're going to try and export the jewelry. We're going to try and build these relatively tall. The ones of these that have low pops, which isn't a lot, there is mainly high pop here. But what we could do is we can make sure that they will be able to be upgraded to a city, which will give us more potential levels, and so we could really build a ton of jewelry. And jewelry as a good is kind of an important good for trade, or it has a relevant feature for trade in that, okay, base price 5, which is good, but then it only takes half a ducat, or not half a ducat, half transport cost to move it around. We've also started annexing this guy, both on the coast. This is a guy we wanted to annex, also has 3 provinces, so won't be as province efficient with the cabinet actions. And then on top of this, a big portion of how we are choosing how to annex guys has to do with tribesmen, which I know we mentioned earlier, but we're only annexing people who have already kind of dealt with the tribesmen a lot for us. Them having a lot of control deals with tribesmen, and we otherwise would have maybe wanted to annex this guy, for example, Azumbo, but the reason why we didn't go for this is because there's still a bunch of tribesmen here. Kind of wanted to incorporate the gold in, but we'll let him go after the tribesmen because what's this about? Why does he have 100 control there? Is he using... Oh, he's increasing province control. Interesting. Very cute. But they will... That's actually pretty nice for converting the tribesmen as well. If we take a look, we could probably see what's going on here. Oh, what are you doing? Encourage urbanization? Well, that's one way to get rid of the tribesmen. And this is what we're trying to point out, is that we are getting a lot out of these guys. And this is kind of courtesy of the decentralization meta. Once decentralization is just better, right? It's this massive tipping point where we have plus 40 on loyalty of subjects, and so this affords us the opportunity to just go really, really hard on the subjects and abusing them for cabinet actions, and this is kind of what we're seeing. Also, just like a little bit of an update in terms of the cultures, Shona is almost completely erased. To be fair, this is maybe a reason to have not annexed this guy. We're probably going to have to do a little bit if we want to erase Shona, but I'm pretty sure we're still... No, we're not a majority. It doesn't matter. We're cord. This is fine enough. But Shona is almost completely erased. The Makua is almost completely erased here. And these will gradually go away over time. Sangha is becoming erased. We maybe get a chance to get free colonizations on Nagini, but maybe not. They're kind of high pop. But after that, we have pretty open territory here in terms of really, really low population. So also going to spam a ton of subjects here and give them settlements, and they're going to dev up, and the places are going to be really, really valuable as we kind of come down the corridor along the coast. Also, Madagascar, we will probably start colonizing this once things pick up in terms of getting the institution for colonization. Like, we've been eyeing this, kind of want to go after this, but it's really, really expensive, and we have been sinking big portion of our economy just continuously into colonies. A bunch of these finished, which is why we're not super desperate for more, but we are also going to be pushing up in this direction. We have this colony to finish, and then we're going to need a mission over here, and then maybe it's like a semi-waiting game / we could try and push up in a different direction up over here so that we can colonize multiple directions for this blue culture. Probably not. I think what we want to do, though, is I think we want to full colonize or start colonizing up this way because it's relatively low pops. But then we're going to kind of hit a little bit of a wall once we get past these Rukwa, because I think that this is pretty high population. I guess we could probably get into it. This is the really big wall, and so things are looking really good for the perspective of going after the rivers, but also we can come from the other direction, and I think we're going to start doing that here, where we're going to start colonizing this. Yemen is, well, so here's the thing. We could let Yemen go after it, but we're going to just start colonizing it. We maybe should have let Yemen go after it, because Yemen is starting to colonize. They're colonizing over to the right, though, and we do want to kind of link in and go from the other side. And from the other side, we will be able to get more of these missions down, which is going to be a little bit better. I think that there is one culture, Luo, that we in particular would like to get the acceptance on, so that way we can go through here to get to Luhaya, and then kind of encircle the lake. But this is really high pop, so just converting one or just flipping one will probably allow us to accept the culture, and then we cancel the colony, and then we come back and get the right thing. We come back and colonize this later once we've flipped them all to Sunni. Like, for example, this won't insta-finish, but this would insta-finish if we, just this one location. What we're doing is we're waiting for this one to finish, because this is the province, and then we could finish both of these at the same time, because we have this culture on accepted. And so, things are coming along really nicely. We have 2.5 million pops, but this is kind of underselling our current situation, and I think that, did we compare tax base? I don't think we compared tax base to some of these cats over here. Notably, we are getting more from trade than we are from tax, so the comparison's maybe not appropriate, but 2/3 of their tax base, 1/3 of Hungary's tax base, Serbia's kind of popping off, double Serbia's tax base, a little bit over Two Sicilies' tax base, and just kind of follow up with the economic hedge numbers. We are currently in 5th place as it relates to income, behind Great Wu and Kumai. Kumai also this is a pretty good patch for Kumai as well, but we're ahead of, for example, the Mamluks, which is really nice. And once we have the Miltech, we should be able to fight anyone in this region. We kind of already can fight anyone in this region, and we've been trying to play nice with the Mamluks for some time. They don't want to play with us, though. They don't want to have a play date, don't want an alliance, but that's okay, because we can handle pretty much anyone. But that said, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do the YouTube algorithm thing, and other than that, have a good one. Bye now.